And welcome back. I'm Mabel, Jong. You're watching WHCC TV, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for joining us. In our studio, we're going to have a very special conversation with Tyler Shultz. You may know him as the whistleblower behind the Theranos takedown, but he's going to tell you he's much more. Thank you so much for joining us, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you.
Is it weird to always have people refer to you as Tyler Shultz, the whistleblower?
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but I've pretty much gotten used to it by this point.
Right, and you started your career as an intern at the company back in 2012. Okay.
11.
2011,
yeah.
Okay, and then how quickly after you started working there full-time that you started to suspect that something was awry with the medical device that the company
After I started working full-time, about 4 days.
About 4 days?
About 4 days, yeah.
Okay, and what happened?
So that was the first time that I saw the open reader, is what we called it. So they had a device that didn't have any of the shell on it, so you could actually see what was happening inside. And the first time that I saw that was actually the first time that my manager from a research lab was seeing it. And I remember she looked at the woman who was giving us the demo and just went, "Do you think this is very cool?" And the woman who gave us the demo just kind of went, "I'll let you decide for yourself," and kind of walked away. So pretty much right off the bat, I realized that there was this inside joke in the scientific community that the technology really wasn't there.
Okay, let's recap a little bit. What was Theranos trying to do?
Yeah, so Theranos was trying to do anything you could do in a central laboratory at a Walgreens, or maybe even in a medevac helicopter or on a battlefield or something like that, operating room.
Okay,
yeah.
With just a prick of
yes, with just a single drop of blood. So one drop of blood. They said in the time you would get actionable information in the time that you need it. So you would quickly be able to get, any blood test done in a point of care setting. So in like a Walgreens while you're shopping, or while you're on the operating table, or if you're wounded in a battlefield. So pretty much anywhere where you could use this information, you could get it. Okay.
So 4 days in, you see something weird and you decide that this isn't what everyone was saying it was, and that it was a fraud at that time?
It took me, I mean, I was still hopeful for a very long time. I continued working at the company for about 8 months, but it was a bunch of things that compounded. So it was seeing the technology not really working. It was seeing that we were giving patients bad results. It was, it looked like we were hiding our technology from regulators and trying to kind of skirt around some regulations. It looked like we were maybe fudging some data. So it was a lot of things that kind of compounded.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do after that? After you decided that some things weren't what they were
first I didn't see myself as a whistleblower. I was just asking questions, and I just asked a couple of questions to the New York State Department of Health. And what they said was that this is a form of cheating the regulators, essentially, and they asked for the name of the company so that they could work with them to improve their practices.
Okay.
But after I did that, I also brought my concerns to Elizabeth Holmes, who was the CEO, and then to a vice president, and my concerns really weren't being addressed, so I ended up quitting.
Okay, and did she, I assume she didn't take that too well when you started questioning her methodology, the validity of her device.
No, they were pretty, they were pushing me out the door for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the president of the company sent me an email essentially saying that I was arrogant, ignorant, patronizing, reckless, with no basic understanding of math, science, or statistics.
Oh.
If I had any other last name, I would have already been held accountable to the strongest extent, that kind of thing.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, because your last name is Shultz. You're the grandson of George Shultz, who, amongst other things, Secretary of State and so forth, but was also on the board of the company.
Yep, it makes things complicated.
It sure does. Now, if you had to do it over again, I'm assuming that you would still whistleblow, but maybe do other things too?
Yeah, I probably, looking back, I don't have any regrets, which is, I'm very happy that I don't have any regrets. But I would definitely do a lot of things differently.
Like what?
Like I probably would have gone directly to the SEC with some of my concerns. And eventually I ended up going to the Wall Street Journal with a lot of my concerns, because a reporter reached out to me and was asking questions, and I just thought, yeah, I'll help this guy ask the right questions.
Okay. But why the SEC?
Well, the SEC has a lot of protections for whistleblowers. So essentially anything you tell the SEC, Theranos wouldn't be able to sue me for things that I was just giving to the government.
So you're essentially protected if you went to them
you're
first.
Essentially protected. But at the time, I really didn't see myself as a whistleblower. I didn't even think to like Google what should a whistleblower do. You know, I was just responding to the situation and doing the best I could with the information I had and the resources that I knew were available to me. And now I obviously know a whole lot more about the whistleblowing process, and I would have done it in a different way. But
and the laws that protect you. Yeah. But you also were slapped with a lawsuit, right?
Well, we never actually went to court, but there were lots of threats to go to court. So there were times when I had a notice to appear in court that the following morning that was called off at like 11 p.m. So we're talking like 9 hours before I'm supposed to appear in court, it's called off. But we never went to court.
Did you ever have to pay lawyers, or were you slapped with attorney's fees?
Yeah, I had huge attorney's fees, about $400,000.
Okay.
Maybe even more. And
would that have been different if you had gone to the SEC first?
That's a good question. Probably. I mean, really, I was paying my lawyers to keep me out of the courtroom, which they did, so they did a really good job. But that would have been a lot easier if I had gone to the SEC with all of my information right off the bat.
What is your guidance or advice, if you will, to other people who might suspect that it isn't all what it just seems to be at companies that they work at?
Yeah, I would say trust your gut. That's one thing that I had a lot of faith in, was I just knew I was 100% right, and part of that was because I had spent a lot of time trying to convince myself that I was wrong. So I talked to senior scientists, you know, I ran experiments, I read laws, I read amendments, I talked to the CEO, I talked to the vice president, I talked to a board member. None of them could convince me that what I was seeing, none of them could convince me that I wasn't seeing what I was seeing. So go through the steps to try to prove yourself wrong, and then once you've done that, then just be confident in yourself.
And your process also involved talking to your grandfather.
Yeah.
And what was his reaction?
He essentially just didn't really believe me. He, believed Elizabeth far more than me.
Right. Have you been watching the proceedings and what's been going on with Elizabeth Holmes since
a little bit.
The company went down?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit, not super closely, but.
And do you agree with what she's trying to do now? She's trying to start another company, and she's trying to.
Yeah, I've heard she's trying to start another company. I would be surprised if that happens, but.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. And you've started a company.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so after I left Theranos, I joined a lab at Stanford where we had essentially repurposed computer hard drive technology to do molecular diagnostics. So I worked in that lab for about 3 years and then spun a company out with my professor working on point-of-care medical diagnostics.
Okay, and what does that mean?
So initially we are measuring hormones for fertility purposes. So helping women get pregnant faster, whether that's at home or in like a fertility IVF, fertility clinic or IVF type setting.
Okay, and what did you learn from your experience at the other company that will help you do what you want to do in the future? Oh,
I learned way too much. Sometimes I wish I could just give it back, but probably the biggest thing is trust the people you hire. So that's one thing I thought Theranos did really well, was hiring, but it seemed like the management didn't listen to the brilliant scientists that they actually hired. So if you have a good hiring process and you trust the people you hire, then you should listen to them.
All right, Tyler Shultz, thank you so much for your time.
It actually was 2012 that I interned there.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks so much. And I'm Mabel Jong. Thanks for joining us.